All right, we got a visitor, okay? He's got a big neck. He's very smart, all right? But
that's where the brain is?
Yeah, it is. You got a lot of brains. It's filtered down from your brain. That's why you're so smart. You got
overflow.
It's in your brain and went down to your neck. It's a bigger brain than the average man. But Josh Norris, Rotoworld, you do an awesome job. And really everything you do.
Thanks, man.
Fantasy football, your evaluations of players, I respect it. I certainly do. You got your mock draft out. I'm in early phases, as you know. I know you still are, too.
Yep.
But you're deeper into this game than I am. So everybody check out Josh Norris, Rotoworld, mock draft, worth it. Listen to his podcast, him and his crew, his posse, his duet, whatever you want to call it. Friends?
We're actually friends on my podcast.
Okay, fine. Friends. Guys that I like to rag on that are part of his posse, but they are all over all things of the NFL, the draft, so I suggest anybody listen to that stuff. All right, your mock draft. I mean, surprise, surprise, we know Joe Burrow's number one. All right, I got you there. Right away, I want to go to pick number 2, though.
Yeah.
Because, of course, the common thought right now is it's going to be Chase Young to the Washington Redskins. You think it's going to be Tua Tagovailoa or Tagovailoa. I still can't say his fucking name. Tua. You think it's going to be him. Let me just hear the logic behind that.
Well, one, I think mock drafts are great for possibilities.
Sure.
And when I look at the Washington Redskins, last year, I don't know if Dwayne Haskins really instilled the confidence I would have wanted out of a rookie top 20
Sure.
pick.
I think there's concerns even with Washington there, too. Right.
And you go back and look at rookie seasons like Lamar Jackson, like Baker Mayfield, like Sam Darnold, like Josh Allen, even what Daniel Jones showed this year, Kyler Murray, obviously. I just didn't get that same confidence. Now, I've gotten a lot of pushback from Redskins fans being like, well, the final 3 games showed me that.
Yeah.
But I don't want them to be. And not even just a Chicago Bears situation where you take Mitch Trubisky ahead of Deshaun Watson and Patrick Mahomes, but even in that year, like a Jacksonville Jaguars situation or other teams that had average quarterbacks where they could have had one who was outstanding. Because I think Tua is an outstanding player. Now, it's not the easiest evaluation. He played inside of a clean structure, and more important than anything, it's the medicals. And the medicals, obviously the reports from Ian Rappaport and everyone else have come out very positive, but it's just different. It's not a knee, it's not a shoulder, it's a hip. And that's just a road that NFL teams just have not wanted to go down before, and they haven't gone down it before, and they hate being the first to do it.
Yeah, well, and to what you're saying here too, also, the medical reports we're hearing, and again, I'm rooting for Tua. I don't want anybody to take this the wrong way. I know people in the NFL think that Tua and his camp are misleading people about how quickly he'll be healthy, all right? Second thing is, I'm not believing the Ian Rappaports of the world or anybody with these type of things. Would they talk to Tua's agent who told him it was going to? Of course he told him everything was on schedule. Right? So that's where I just go, okay, teams are going to have to evaluate for themselves. Special player, no doubt about it. I am concerned. Like, I have a legit concern. Just from the early things I've seen, and again, phenomenal. I mean, can wheel and deal, throw the ball anywhere he wants. He's a better athlete than I even gave him credit for when I turned on film. He really is. And the ball pops out of his hand with more power than I think I ever really gave it credit for when I started to look more closely.
And he has that touch, obviously.
He does. He's got it all. He is a passer, a thrower, whatever you want to say about him. He is complete that way. But the size, the style of play, and the one thing that has come up to me a little bit, and again, I haven't deep dived yet. I'm watching like POAs right now, right?
Yep.
He does have a hard time getting out of harm's way. He does. And
he likes to hold on to it
just
for
a little too
extra
long.
tick.
You're right.
It's like Deshaun Watson in that regard.
Right.
And we've seen Deshaun take a beating.
Having
to take buses in between games. And he's not coming out of Alabama and Matt Money Smith actually talked about this in the Around the NFL podcast. Tua's surgery was deemed a trauma surgery. And it's not a longevity surgery. And while it might be great now, again, teams just don't know because you don't have to deal with trauma surgeries all that often. I mean, we are no doctors, but we're just trying to put pieces together. And, it's not a new regime necessarily from a front office perspective. But with Washington, they have come in and completely cleaned house. I mean, Ron has taken everyone from Carolina up there. And, if you want to start fresh, reading between the lines with Haskins too, how much Ron Rivera is talking about, oh, it's so great to see him in the locker room. And if you read between the lines,
I know
that means he wasn't doing that last year.
Exactly right. That's exactly what it is. And I know, so I don't need to read between the lines.
I do.
Yeah, I know you do. You know,
I tried to steal your contact out of your phone earlier, but it didn't happen.
But I know you know too. You've heard from some of those same concerns that I've heard from people involved in the Washington Redskins about Dwayne Haskins, and that yes, it wasn't tip-top professional quarterback type dedication they saw through the better part of the season last year. I think it got better as the season progressed, and then I think the offseason has started off in the right way. All right, enough on the QB there. Chase Young, just hit me up a little bit. I haven't watched a snap yet.
Really?
I have not. I've not gone there yet. I just want to hear, again, I know he's a stud. I saw enough to know that. Comparable to the Myles Garretts, the Jadeveon Clowney, just give me a quick little synopsis of the guy or what pops to you.
We don't have a full athletic profile on him yet.
Yeah.
While Clowney and Myles Garrett were just complete freaks of nature.
Right.
We've kind of been, it's been generous how good these edge rushing talents have been in recent years.
Right.
Nick Bosa, Joey Bosa, they've all just been fantastic. And Chase Young, I think the best way to designate him is that he can be a primary rusher on an NFL team.
Yeah.
And that seems super generic, but when you go into a game knowing that you can game plan one-on-one situations 10, 15, 20 times a game when the other team is throwing the football, and you can rely on Chase Young to win you those matchups. Not every time, obviously.
Yeah,
but
right.
If he can,
I got you. Yeah.
Get 7 pressures or 5 pressures, 3 sacks, that changes the course of the game and leads to turnovers and leads you to having the big play differential. He offers that. And safe is a word that's thrown out generally, but I think the way that he wins at the college level with his combination of speed and power and flexibility, and that he has a plan when he rushes the passer, that easily translates to the NFL.
Yeah, okay. I hear you there. I'm excited to watch him. Like I said, it's been total TV.
It's an easy evaluation.
I would think so. I don't think I'm going to have to watch 400 plays of him to figure him out. All right, let's get a little offensive line talk here, because it's an interesting position. You got, Mekhi Becton going number 4 to the Giants. You got Tristan Wirfs, the stud from the Combine, going number 7 to the Carolina Panthers. Makes a lot of sense. The Arizona Cardinals need tackle help. You got Jedrick Wills going there from Alabama. First off, Wirfs, guard all the way. What do you think goes on there?
So first overall with his offensive tackle class.
Say it all.
We'll get to wide receivers.
Yeah.
But the wide receiver group has been deemed this generational talent group this year. I would actually say at the top that the offensive tackle class might be even more impressive. We know how much needed it is for more starters along the offensive tackle spot, offensive line spot across the NFL. We're finally going to get that injection this year. Wirfs is a fascinating one because he's one of the maybe rarest athletes we've seen at that offensive line spot coming to the NFL for years. He was one of the first freshmen to ever start at Iowa along that offensive line, and we know it's a factory that they produce them. So I had found that out about him before I went and watched his game, thinking that, okay, this is going to be a perfect, easy evaluation. It wasn't. Despite all that athleticism, he kind of gets off balance. He overextends. Goes for the kill too much? No, I think it's just a balance issue. Like he plays on his toes a little more too often than playing on his heels.
Yeah, okay.
It's someone who I'm a little nervous that obviously he can be taught how to play once you get to the NFL, but for someone that has had this much playing time, which is that athletic, and you see it all pop up. I mean he's a freak. He's a freak. Who started this? Was it Jerron Gilbert? Remember that name?
Yeah, I do remember it, but I can't remember who started it. But either way, that is amazing at that size and weight to be able to do that.
You do see the anchor, you do see the recovery, but too often he plays on the ground. So could a team view him as a guard? Sure. I think that he played on the left side, he played on the right side. Tackle most likely is where he's going to end up. And despite those questions we have about his on-tape evaluation, he should be a top 10 selection.
Okay. Either way, I will say this, and I know you know more than me about these guys anyways right now. Wirfs, at my first look, looks like a guard to me. He does, but I don't know that. I'm just saying that right now. Total.
Did Zack Martin have that same look to you?
He did. Yes, I thought Zack Martin was a guard prospect all the way. I mean, I thought somebody might make him, maybe somebody makes him a tackle. He can go there and be a starter and be really good, but I always thought, ooh, guard is going to be the spot where I think he could be special.
Can we talk about the transition? Because a lot of people just think it's arm length from tackle, then you move inside to guard if you're not as long.
Yeah.
No, it's more that you can hold up on an island, right?
Sure,
you can hold up in one-on-one situations.
Right.
And when I went back and watched Zack Martin, you know, his base was so wide that it looked like he could work and function better in that mess and trash when he was actually bookended by someone else.
Right.
I think Wirfs can operate on that island because he is athletic with his pass set and everything else.
Yeah,
but
okay.
Again, you got to fix the balance issues because you don't want to end up on the ground when you're in a one-on-one situation.
Yeah, I'm excited to watch these offensive tackles.
Becton is fascinating too.
Yeah.
Because in that Louisville offense, I'm sure you've watched it in the last few years, he didn't have those individual one-on-one matchups. In some ways, it reminded me of Greg Robinson coming out of Auburn, in that, you know, they throw the ball a lot, but he either has help or he crashes down, they chip the
they're always
rusher.
sliding and doing things like that, right?
I think he was only charted with about 60 pure pass sets last year.
Yeah.
And that's not enough. I mean, compared to like 160 with Wirfs, 200 with other guys. So that would be my only question. I mean, he throws people out of the club when he gets his hands on.
Well, I mean, he better, being that f***ing big. He f***ing better, okay?
A 5'11" at 364 pounds.
Insanity. You got 5 tackles going in the top 14, right? If I got that right?
You do.
So that I am very excited to dive into that group. All right, one other thing. You number 9 got the Jacksonville Jaguars taking Jeffrey Okudah. Listen, I got no issue with any of that. I just want you to explain, is Okudah clearly the guy at corner, like it's no contest from what you've seen so far?
Yeah, and I have other ones like in C.J. Henderson at number 11, Jaylen Johnson at number 25. I actually hate watching corners. I think those of us who sit up here and think we are perfect evaluators for every single position.
We all have our strengths and minuses about certain positions.
And mine is probably corners because I have to watch so much more with them to get a feel for them.
Right.
With that being said, I feel like I know exactly who Jeffrey Okudah is as a player. You know, you don't necessarily talk, and maybe talking about tackling first overall for a corner is wrong, but with him, it just shows up every time there's something in the flats in his area, and he just runs up like he's, I don't know, Lito Shepard tackling Reggie Bush and just destroying him in the backfield.
Right.
But then he's got, like, you know, the short, choppy steps. He stays in phase. He's everything that you want in a corner, and I have him 9 here, which is sliding. I could easily see him as the pick at 3 with the Detroit Lions if they do move on from Darius Slay.
Yeah, right. Anybody comparable to him, you think, that you look at in the NFL? Any names that I don't mean to put you on the spot there, but I just was trying to think, like, okay, is he in the same class as a Denzel Ward out of Ohio State from 2 years ago? It's that kind of player.
He is. And actually, the safety position is fascinating this year, too.
Yeah.
Because, and I don't know if you can consider Isaiah Simmons a safety linebacker. He's kind of one of those hybrid players.
Yes, right.
But there's a lot of those hybrid players this year, too. Xavier McKinney from Alabama.
Sure.
Kyle Duggar from Lenore-Ryan, which is a tiny school, I believe, in North Carolina.
Yeah, I know nothing about him.
They're all fantastic athletes, and you just hope that they wind up on a team that understands and knows how to use that type of player, that they don't just line them up in one spot and ask them to do the same thing, play in and play out.
Right.
You know, the Miami Dolphins would be a great spot with any of those guys. They could kind of do hybrid Patrick Chung, Calvin Noy type things with them and just move them all, Derwin James, move them all around.
Yeah, right.
Just hope they end up in the right spot.
Yeah, I hear you there. Simmons is certainly one of the most intriguing specimens in the draft, and yes, I have a hard time believing that there's any way he gets outside of the top 12, no matter what position you think he should play. All right, receivers, let's hit on that. That's one where I'm excited. Like, I've heard some people think, like, oh, because there's so many receivers, people are gonna, you know, not make a run on them in the first round. It's gonna wait. I think it's gonna be the opposite. First off, I think last year is gonna prove to some teams where they're gonna go, wait, we didn't draft Deebo Samuel or DK Metcalf, and we let them in the second round, and we saw what they did for their teams.
Right.
And I think it's going to change teams this year to go, wait, these guys are too talented. And I think there's a group, or at least I know there's probably 10 or 12 really top-notch receivers, but I think there's 4 or 5, just from what I've seen, that's kind of stand out from the rest. Give us your synopsis of the receiver position and just the ones that jump out to you.
I think there's a top 2, and then there's a gap in between there. The top 2, in whatever order you want to put them.
You're going Ruggs and CeeDee Lamb.
I'm going to go Jerry Jeudy. And
Jerry Jeudy. Okay, all right.
I think Jerry Jeudy, and, you know, it's easy to make comparisons to players that have been successful from the same college recently, and it's the same position. He does remind me, he's on like the Calvin Ridley spectrum. I think that's the bottom for him, and the top one might be Stephon Diggs.
Right.
And you just don't see players coming out of college that are just that adept and comfortable in creating separation and sustaining it in their routes.
Right.
And he's not one of these fantastic athletes. Like, he tests in like the 20th percentile. But Calvin Ridley was the same. Stephon Diggs was the same. And having that type of player that can come in and at the very worst be like your secondary receiver, or just put him in the slot and let him operate there like the Falcons did with Ridley makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It's funny. I walked in today in the building and someone at the desk was saying that CeeDee Lamb was compared to DeAndre Hopkins. And as I asked who said that, and they said Chris Simms said that, because that's the exact comparison I have down here too. Between
a little of the POAs I've seen, watching his pro day workout yesterday, all of that, that's just who he reminds me of. Not the guy that's going to blaze you for 70-yard touchdowns, but going to catch all those 50-50 balls, got great ability to adjust the ball in the air, can go over the middle, be tough. And where I would say he's better than a DeAndre Hopkins is this here. When he's got the ball in his hands,
he wins.
He wins. He's got unbelievable. His ability to make people miss and juke people with the ball in his hands is actually better than when he runs routes, which is a little weird to me. But yeah, there's value for this guy in the NFL. This is the type of guy that I think I've undervalued sometimes.
In previous years?
Yeah, in previous years where maybe didn't give the Michael Thomases and the DeAndre Hopkins of the world enough credit for their physicality, their toughness, their hand strength, and the value that has in the NFL. And I think that's what he brings. So with all that, you still have Henry Ruggs going as your first receiver and this is, to me, this is where it's fascinating. Just from my NFL friends that I've talked to.
Yeah, let me hear this.
I would say more have Ruggs right now as the number one guy. I know.
Is that just pure speed?
I don't know, and I haven't evaluated enough to give my personal reason of why that is. Now, I've had other ones go Jerry Jeudy, CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah.
But I've heard Ruggs and CeeDee Lamb, and then Jerry Jeudy is third more than I've heard the other way around, which, again, I'm not saying they're right or wrong or you're right or wrong. Either way, I think, I'm with you. Jeudy is the guy that jumps out to me as being the best one. Polished, can do everything. I think he's actually plays faster than his 40 time, which looks to me. So, but go ahead, just expand on that.
If I could equate Henry Ruggs to someone in last year's class, it would obviously be Hollywood Brown.
Okay.
Someone that is just pure speed.
Right.
And that speed travels game to game. And even if he's not on the stat sheet or on the scoreboard, his impact is felt.
Yeah, right.
And that's important. We've seen teams' offenses completely collapse without that type of player on the field.
Philadelphia Eagles.
We've seen it with Philly. We've seen it with the Houston Texans without Will Fuller.
Sure, right.
I could go on and on and on.
Right.
I don't know. I mean, it is just personal preference, right? It's what flavor you like.
And what your team needs and all that. Right, yep.
But I mean, you see him with manufactured touches at Alabama. You just see him with pure explosion. I would say that there's someone else in this class that could offer those same types of things, but isn't mentioned in that same group, and it's Jalen Reagor coming out of TCU.
Okay, right.
It's fascinating. If you go and look at his athletic profile versus DK Metcalf, they're almost identical.
He's some specimen looking in person.
Meaning a fantastic straight line speed, amazing jumps in the vert and the broad.
Right.
But then the agility scores are not good.
Right.
They're well below average.
Right.
But the difference between Metcalf and Reagor is 4 inches and about 20 pounds. So you ask yourself, can a team use Reagor in the exact same way that the Seahawks use Metcalf? And they were super methodical and slow in the development with Metcalf last season. At the beginning of the year, they just lined him up on the left side, which is exactly what he did at Ole Miss.
Right.
Everything was off that vertical plane. Then you see it more and more as you go along. Those slot fades, those working across the formation, even some routes on the right side. So it's not like DK was this perfect receiver coming to the NFL. They had a plan for it.
Yeah, sure.
I think you can do the exact same thing with Reagor, but those contested catches where Metcalf really shined last year, it's fair to wonder if you can get those same things.
I know
just
nothing.
Because the size is different.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there. I know nothing about Reagor, really, other than a few highlights I've seen, not even in POA, not even film stuff yet. So I'm very intrigued. First off, I saw him in person and then saw him, in his spandex at the Combine. He's one of those guys that we're seeing in fashion in the NFL right now. He's a wide receiver in a running back's body, at least it looks like to me. He played that style of game. Like, just from the highlights I saw, I felt like I saw maybe DJ Moore from the Carolina Panthers. Am I wrong in that? Or just, Is he that style of player?
I would say there are more vertical shots in Reagor's game. Because I think where DJ is now, it's kind of in that Debo role where you want to get the ball to him on drags and slants.
Yeah, right, and then let him go.
Run after the catch.
Gotcha.
But, I mean, honestly, a lot of, because Reagor was playing with awful quarterback situation at TCU.
Right.
A lot of what they did was try to get the ball in his hands in any way possible. And some of that was also as a returner. He just looked super explosive there. And there's some correlation between being a successful returner in college and then that translating to big plays in the NFL.
Sure.
Not return-wise, because
but just explosive plays.
Exactly.
Right. Well, we got to all change our thought of the receiver position. It's no longer just all about like you got to be Jerry Rice and this perfect route runner and be really crisp with how your body language is. Like it's changed. The NFL's changed. It's more weapons now. You can think of it that way. Like Debo Samuel, like you just mentioned, Tyreek Hill. Yeah, they're maybe not the most nuanced wide receivers in the world, but they're explosive as hell. Their acceleration's off the charts. And with all the speed sweeps and the other creative ways to get the receivers the ball right now in the NFL, they're viewed as weapons more than maybe your traditional wide receiver.
And you're going to hear, like, who's this year's Debo Samuel throughout the entire draft process. And if I can throw one name under the radar that's not going to go in the first round, but fits that mold, it's Antonio Gibson out of Memphis. He was actually listed as a running back at the Combine, which is great with the ball in his hands. But a lot of times at Memphis, he played as a slot receiver there. He's big, 6'1", 223 pounds, but just super fluid and comfortable with the ball in his hands. If you want one more, Lynn Bowden, who was a former quarterback at Kentucky, did a lot of those same things as well, worked as a slot receiver, but also looked very comfortable in the short, intermediate, and downfield games as well.
Right. Okay. One name that I did not see that I thought I would see in your first-round mock, Justin Jefferson from LSU.
Yeah.
Give us your little roundabout there.
I haven't gone deep on him, but whenever I did watch him on the surface, a lot of his success was in the slot.
Yeah.
And I kind of feel like you can find that type.
Right.
Basically in any day of the draft.
Yeah, I got you.
And I don't know if I would spend a first-round pick on that. Like, I think it's different between him, Jefferson, and what A.J. Brown put out.
Right.
Okay? Because I loved A.J. Brown coming into the NFL. Because once DK Metcalf went out with an injury at Ole Miss, A.J. Brown then went on the outside and excelled there.
Right.
I think just Joe Brady, Joe Burrow, these types that were able to create and manufacture space for Jefferson allowed him to have a lot of success. I'm not taking anything away from him, but I don't know if he fits in that same top three that we were talking about earlier.
Okay, yeah. I don't know if I looked at him as the top three either. I don't know why. Again, I'm at my early stages. I thought he would be in that class, but
Denzel Mims might be up in
Mims
that class.
is another guy I would think is seriously there. Yes, I like what I've seen from him, and he's big, and of course, what he did at the Combine 40-wise and all that, that's going to make people go back. Yeah,
great Senior Bowl, too. I wasn't there, but that's just what you hear from him.
Well, no, everybody has said that. No doubt about it. Let's see. Anything else we wanted to hit on here?
Can I get your read on Herbert?
Please.
Herbert and Jordan Love?
Yeah.
Have you gotten to
I haven't really got to Jordan Love, no.
Because this is a totally different dynamic.
Yes.
Because Herbert, and we've had this conversation just in the hallways here, has all the tools that you want, right? I mean, it looks like he throws absolute lasers.
Yes.
He has a size. The athleticism is eye-popping. But what I'm most nervous about when I watch him is if he has that mentality game to game, even drive to drive, of, okay, the structure is going to break down, and I'm going to create something outside of it. The more I do this, and I haven't been doing this for that long, but the more I do this, I realize that's more of a mentality and a confidence than a tools thing. And we kind of associate athleticism with mobility and running off script when it really is a mentality.
No, it is. I think without a doubt, you're right there. I think it's fair to question that with Justin Herbert, too. I think that's one of the things going around about him is his personality, his, alpha male stature. Is he going to be a vocal leader? All those things. Of course, the concerns you hear that he's never really been outside of Eugene, Oregon and all that. From what I've seen to this point, I do think there's enough of them. And first off, we've had this that offense sucks in Oregon. All right, there's no other way to put it. So he's in a tough spot. But from what I've seen to this point, man, I've seen enough throws where I go, ooh, I don't think anybody else in college football can make that throw right there.
Yeah.
And then to your point, hey, there are times where I'd go, damn, I wish he'd just leave the pocket and go make a play and scramble and make a throw. I've seen it. I know he can do it. Would I like to see it more? Yes. I also think, his game, as far as what you're talking about there, his size. We had this little combo in the hallway the other day. His size can be that too.
Yeah.
Where it doesn't always have to be scrambling around and, I ran and extended the plays. You could be a, Big Ben, Phillip Rivers type, where, the pocket's collapsed and it doesn't matter. I'm just big and strong and I can still throw a 25-yard in cut with people around me. It doesn't matter. So those are the things I'm continuing. I'm early stages with him and all these guys. I'm going to kind of come up with my quarterback rankings here in 2 weeks, but
nice.
I'm interested to see more of the guy as we go along.
And I feel like when you watch Jordan Love play, actually, I feel like Jordan Love might have watched like a Patrick Mahomes highlight tape before every single one of his games and thinks, okay, I'm going to do that in the field now.
Right.
Because so much of it is that backyard, outside of structure.
Sure.
Not saying that that's Patrick Mahomes' game, but he offers that.
Yeah, right.
And I think Jordan then wants to be like, okay, I'm watching these highlights, then doing the exact same thing. He's an interesting one because it's somewhat like Josh Allen coming out of school out of Wyoming, where his final season was probably the worst situation he's been in at the college level.
Right.
All the starters leave, coaches, whatever.
Statistically, it wasn't a great year, 20-17.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But if NFL teams have that same concern that I have with Herbert right now, that they want someone that is comfortable in chaos, that's all that I think Jordan Love really brings to the table.
Yeah.
So my issue is that in those situations, it's also not the perfect decision.
Right.
It's not a beautiful ball.
Right.
It's like he is kind of playing this backyard style, and it leads to a lot of mistakes and a lot of bad throws.
Yes.
So in that regard, a team's going to have to harness him that way.
I think that's what's going to hold him out of the top 10, where I hear people say, oh, he's going to be in the top 10. I just want to go, that's just nice, early March talk. I don't think when the other coaches and QB coaches start to get out of free agency mode and start to dive into these quarterbacks, I think that Jordan Love, who I still think is a first-round talent, I just think his name will move out of that top 10 combo, and it'll be somewhere where'd you have him at? Number
18 to the Dolphins.
I could see something like that. That would be about where I would think he would be, somewhere between 16 and 26, somewhere in that range, that he ends up with a team that's not desperate to have him right now, maybe can make him sit a year. And I think that probably goes for Herbert, too. I think those are two guys, like Burrow and Tua, ready to go right now. If they're healthy, bam, you can throw them on the field, they're ready to play. Herbert, Love, I think they're both guys that I'd probably like to see play more or sit a year, but I got to see more of Jordan Love before I give anything, a staple there. You the man, dude.
Thanks,
Good
dude.
shit. Anything else you want to get off your chest here that's interesting to you?
Again, I would just keep in mind how many teams at the top of the draft need left tackles.
Yeah.
Washington, the Giants, the Dolphins, the Chargers, right tackle, and obviously the Cardinals. I would throw out the Browns as well. And it's the perfect year for that. So it might not be, the most fun position to watch, but that tackle group is really special.
Well, yeah, it looks like it's really special. You're right. We have a lot of teams that need tackle help. Free agency does not have a lot of tackle play in it. I mean, you're talking about Jack Conklin, Brian Bulaga, Jason Peters, which is risky at his age.
Trading for Trent Williams.
Right. I mean, it's a limited group there. So, yeah, maybe one or two teams find their guy here through free agency, but I'm with you. I can see a run here with this offensive tackle position.
Let's talk again, Chris.
Let's talk in a few weeks when I have more knowledge to play your game here, okay, and have intelligent conversations. But everybody check out Josh Norris, Rotoworld, everything he does. He's the man. It's a good group of guys. Him and his posse like to wreak havoc on the internet. That's it for Chris Simms Unbuttoned.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.